ReadyATS Deep Dive. Today we are diving into a crucial challenge facing the UK real estate sector, how the small independent agencies, the backbone of the industry, can possibly keep pace with their staffing needs when talent is graining away. You provided us with a thorough stack of sources analyzing recruitment services and HR technology, and our mission today is, well, pretty straightforward. We want to assess whether variable cost models can genuinely provide a sustainable solution to this chronic talent crisis for these smaller firms.
It's a really interesting situation because we're seeing these conflicting signals, which is why your sources are so timely. On one hand, you've got some genuine grounds for optimism looking into 2025. Projections are showing maybe a 15% rise in investment volume that suggests, some economic recovery. But then you contrast that with the reality on the ground for talent. It's undermining that potential. For the vast majority of agencies, and we're talking about the 99% that are SMEs, the traditional ways of hiring, they're just broken, unsustainable, really.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly then. So we're going to focus explicitly on analyzing the effectiveness of a more flexible approach. Something consumption-based, this pay-as-you-grow or PAYG model, coupled with managed recruiting services. We'll look at how specific platforms, namely ReadyATS and InsideTalent, are trying to stabilize that whole talent acquisition pipeline for these smaller UK real estate players.
Right, let's get grounded in the current market reality. Your sources, they paint this picture of, resilience in some ways. We're seeing projected house price growth, maybe 2–4%, and the sector overall looking at a 5.3% compound annual growth rate through 2030. That sounds pretty strong.
It does sound strong, but it's incredibly fragmented. You mentioned over 25,000 agencies operating in 2024. That level of competition isn't just about finding deals anymore. It's fundamentally about who can actually staff their offices reliably.
And that competition, I assume, fuels the talent problem. It absolutely feeds a retention nightmare. The sector-wide average for employee turnover is already quite high, sitting around 30 to 35% annually. But here's the statistic that should really worry agency owners. In those high-pressure roles.
You mean the commission-based ones?
Yeah.
Sales, letting.
Exactly. The people driving core revenue. Surveys are showing an intent-to-leave signal of 46%.
46%. Wow. So almost half of your key revenue generators are thinking about leaving.
That's the signal, yes. Now, the actual observed turnover is at 30–35%, but that 46% intention. It just highlights the extreme fragility. And for a small agency, this kind of churn isn't just an inconvenience or a small fee. It's financially devastating.
Which brings us neatly to the cost, the budget pain points. Hiring through traditional agencies, that's already expensive, right? We're talking £8,000, £10,000 per hire.
Easily. That's pretty standard. But the sources rightly point out the total cost, the hidden cost. Once you factor in lost deals, the productivity slump while the new person ramps up. You're looking at something directionally benchmarked around £20,000 to £25,000 per leaver.
20 to 25,000 pounds. Per person leaving.
Per person. Now, imagine you're running, say, a 10-person branch, losing just 2 key staff members in a year. That's potentially a £50,000 hit to your bottom line. Plus, think about the owner's time. These small firms, they rarely have dedicated HR.
Right, so it's the owner or maybe a senior manager doing their recruiting?
Exactly. They're moonlighting as recruiters. And every time someone walks out the door, critical knowledge walks out with them. It makes it harder and harder to compete.
And it's not just the hiring cost and the time drain. They're also grappling with operational hurdles like compliance, aren't they? Things the big national chains just handle with large departments.
Absolutely. The regulatory burden is significant and it keeps changing. You've got things like IR35 affecting contractor status, new energy performance rules, HMO mandates, all requiring specialist knowledge. Just the time it takes for a small agency to verify compliance. Right-to-work checks, anti-money laundering, specific skills needed. Your sources suggest it can add 50% to the time to hire.
50% longer just on compliance checks? They just don't have the bandwidth.
They don't. And on top of that, their hiring needs are really unpredictable. You called it spiky.
Yeah, like a huge rush in the spring, then maybe nothing in the autumn.
Precisely. And a fixed fee model, like a traditional retainer or an annual software subscription, just doesn't work with that kind of volatility. It crushes their budget during the quiet times.
Okay, so that volatility, that need for flexibility, points directly towards these newer models. Let's dig into the solution design. Pay-as-you-grow, PAYG. Explain the core idea.
It's fundamentally about shifting recruitment from a fixed, often painful cost into a variable one. So the costs align much better with how real estate actually works. It's transaction-driven, seasonal. You pay more when you're busier, less when you're not.
Makes sense. So how does it work in practice? Does it start cheap?
Yeah, the model often starts with freemium access, so you get the basic tools like an applicant tracking system for free. Then, as your hiring needs increase, you scale up to quite manageable monthly subscriptions, maybe around, say, 75,000 a month, but only when you're actively hiring. Just by doing that, by avoiding paying for idle resources, you're looking at maybe 20–30% efficiency gains right off the bat.
Okay, that tackles the cost structure and the technology side. But what about the expertise gap? The small agency owner still isn't a compliance expert or a sourcing guru.
No, they're not. And that's where the other half of the solution comes in. Managed recruiting services. It's basically outsourcing the bits of the recruitment process that need specialist skills or are just really time-consuming. Think of it like RPO-lite.
RPO-lite, recruitment process outsourcing, but scaled down.
Exactly. Tailored for smaller budgets and needs. It means delegating things like candidate sourcing, initial screening, even handling some of the compliance burden.
So what would that actually look like for an agency owner? What can they hand over?
It's usually tiered. For, say, an urgent vacancy, they might use something called a light sprint. A dedicated team jumps in, sources candidates, vets them quickly, and delivers a qualified shortlist in maybe 10 to 14 days. Problem solved, fast.
Okay, that handles emergencies. What about ongoing needs or harder to fill roles?
Then you'd look at more of a full RPO-lite service. That's where the provider takes ownership of pretty much the whole process. Sourcing, screening, assessments, interviews, right through to those crucial 30, 60, 90-day onboarding checks.
The onboarding checks to help with that retention issue.
Precisely. It's designed specifically to improve retention from day one. And the data suggests this kind of managed approach can boost fill rates by 30–40% and critically improve retention by about 20%.
Right, now let's connect this back to the specific products mentioned in the sources. ReadyATS and InsideTalent. How do they work together to deliver this?
Okay, so ReadyATS is essentially the technology foundation. It's the freemium applicant tracking system. It gives agencies the core infrastructure for free things like posting jobs, using AI to parse CVs, setting up workflows for those compliance documents we talked about, like right to work and AML checks.
So it removes that upfront software cost and handles the basics.
Yes. And then InsideTalent provides the human expertise, the managed service layer that sits on top.
They do the heavy lifting.
Pretty much. InsideTalent brings the specialist recruiters. They handle the active sourcing, tapping into talent pools on platforms like Reed, Zoopla, other property networks. They manage the candidate pipeline, run the screening, and importantly, provide that up-to-date compliance knowledge so the branch manager doesn't have to worry about it.
Okay, the synergy makes sense. Let's talk impact. The sources mentioned some compelling numbers. 40% cost savings, 50% faster hiring, 25% reduction in churn. How realistic is that for a typical small agency?
Look, those are strong numbers, but they are achievable. The 40% cost saving is fairly direct. You compare the freemium start and targeted placement fees against a traditional agency's percentage fee, especially on multiple hires. It adds up quickly.
And the speed, cutting hiring time by half.
That comes from automating the admin, the compliance checks via ReadyATS, and leveraging InsideTalent's established networks and efficient processes. It counters those regulatory delays we mentioned.
What about the churn reduction? 25% is significant.
That's about combining technology and expertise, using ReadyATS for better, structured screening up front, filtering more effectively, and then using InsideTalent's managed service, particularly those onboarding checks and retention support. It's about hiring better and keeping them longer.
It all sounds good, but the ultimate proof is the return on investment, the ROI. The sources estimated a 3.7 to 4.0 times ROI in the first year for a typical, say, 12-person branch. What's the main driver behind such a high return?
Honestly, the biggest driver is often simply avoiding one costly mishire. Remember that £20,000 to £25,000 total replacement cost. If using structured screening and better onboarding prevents just one person from leaving within the first 6 months,
The system has basically paid for itself several times over.
exactly. You avoid that massive cost, you reduce vacancy time, and the savings generate that strong ROI very quickly. It protects those already tight margins.
Okay, so for an owner-manager listening right now, feeling that pain, what are the practical first steps based on these insights?
The advice is usually to start small, prove the concept internally, maybe pilot ReadyATS for just 1 or 2 upcoming roles. Track the metrics. Aim to get your cost per hire below that £5,000 mark. That's a good initial target to show it's working financially.
And if they have an urgent need or a particularly tough role to fill?
Don't hesitate to delegate. Use the managed service, InsideTalent's light sprints perhaps, for that targeted sourcing. Get the experts on it rather than the owner spending days searching job boards. And critically, shift the focus beyond just cost. Start tracking quality metrics.
Like what?
Things like first 90-day retention. Are the people you're hiring actually staying?
Yeah.
And maybe candidate net promoter score, candidate NPS. Are you providing a good experience? That reflects on your brand.
This really brings it all together. These variable cost models, powered by tech like ReadyATS and expertise like InsideTalent, aren't just about making recruitment cheaper or faster day to day. It sounds like they're actually a strategic imperative for these small agencies to survive and potentially thrive.
I think that's right. It gives them the operational stability and cost control they desperately need, and that stability positions them perfectly to actually benefit from that projected 15% investment rebound we talked about earlier, expected over the next couple of years.
So they can ride out the tough times and be ready for the upswing.
Precisely. The core strategic advantage of variable pricing here is that flexibility. It helps small agencies navigate the downturns, and let's be honest, insolvencies are rising right now, but it also gives them the agility to scale up quickly, to grab opportunities and capture growth when the market turns positive, potentially outpacing competitors stuck with higher fixed costs.
A fascinating look at how flexibility can be a real competitive edge in a tough market.
It really can. It allows them to punch above their weight, in a sense.
I hope you enjoy this podcast. See you next time.